What's going on, Los Angeles, Bruin Nation, LAFB fam? How we doing? The Thriller and Madman back together again for all of your UCLA football needs. And so excited to be here with my main man. The Bruin train rolls on. So much to talk about from yesterday. But first and foremost, Thriller, how we doing, brother? How the last few days been? How's the weekend going? How you enjoying life?
Man, I mean, we are doing another victory Sunday, 3 straight after Penn State, Michigan State, and now a victory over Maryland. I'm just blown away by what this team is putting together, post the start we had. So like I said last week, it was all gravy. It's more gravy at this point. It's like a train of gravy coming our way. And dude, just what a hell of a game. I'm so proud of this team. It's one thing to win when everything's going your way, kind of like Michigan State, but we needed that mental toughness win that kind of solidified we can get over the hump when things aren't going our way. And that is exactly what occurred last night, my man.
No, absolutely, Thriller. So well said. And if my voice is sounding hoarse, as you and I talked about online, at the game, screaming my eyes and ears and tail off to sort of try and will this victory all the way home, pun intended.
Yes,
this was a unbelievable game, Thriller. Let's sort of get into it. Just very weird things happening over the course of this game. And I think if we frame it, you'll really appreciate this. I think it reminded me a lot of the Iowa game last year, if you think about it. Both at home, both ended up 20-17. Both were the result now of a third straight win. Remember that Iowa game was a third game winning streak, Maryland's 3-game winning streak. And it was a game where you just didn't have your fastball, and it was one of those games where from about 12:55 to go in the second quarter, all the way to the end of the third quarter, there was no scoring. It remained 7-3 for basically half the game. And it was sort of teams ping-ponging back and forth punts, ping-ponging back and forth turnovers. Maryland had a turnover in plus territory with UCLA. Nico comes back at the end of the half, throws the interception. And then that fourth quarter, and particularly the final 5 minutes of the game, Thriller, the Bruins find a way to come to victory, which is so exciting. These were the types of games, Thriller, that over the course of the last year and a half, we just didn't win. When you think about even earlier this year with Northwestern, a winnable game. Earlier this year with UNLV, a winnable game down the stretch. Last year, the SC game.
Minnesota,
last year, the Washington game. These were all winnable games. That we found a way not to come on the other side of. This is the first time we sort of cross that line, get that victory, have that winning culture. Thriller, I'm really excited to get your thoughts. But I thought the defense was absolutely phenomenal.
Sure.
To hold, Maryland to 337 total yards. And what was so impressive for me, Thriller, is even though the team didn't have any sacks yesterday, they dominated the line of scrimmage. Maryland, it was a slog for Maryland to be able to run that ball outside of a couple of long runs by Williams. This thing was 2-3 yards in a cloud of dust pretty much every time. And it really adjusted, I think, Maryland's game plan of needing to throw in running situations. I thought the ultimate moment of, I think, Bruin defensive dominance actually came when right before the Nico pick six to make it 10-7, because if you recall, Thriller, it was second and goal from the UCLA 2-yard line that Maryland had, and they didn't have confidence to run the ball. They had to go 3 straight throws. In that situation, UCLA gets the stop. Then obviously the pick six happens, a 6-yard pick six essentially to make it 10-7, and then we have the flurry at the end. But UCLA does not win this game without the defensive performance that we saw here today. And then on the flip side, Thriller, offensively, the freest game. I mean, my goodness, the 55-yard run, the 30-yard run on that last drive was really sort of the bulk of the big plays offensively. But I'm just so proud of this team with the guts. Down 10-7, it was really a difficult situation there. You get all the way down to 4th and 10. Nico, tough night, 2 interceptions, a fumble. I think it was his first bad game of the season. Even though we've had the 0-4 start that we've had, it wasn't Nico related. Nico always showed up and played pretty well in those games. This was his first clunker of a game, I thought, in my opinion. But at 4th and 10, down 10-7, under 5 minutes to go with the type of night we had, man, it looked bleak. Finds Quasi across the middle. You get that targeting. That becomes a 31-yard play. And then on third down, 3rd and 4 at the 13, you find Mikey Matthews to make it 14-10. Defense gets that interception. You thought the game was over there. It stalls out. Nico gets hurt. The whole stadium, sort of is holding their breath. It becomes 17-10. Maryland unexpectedly sort of marches all the way down, ties the game, and then you come back, 2 great throws to Titus, and then that Frias run, and then the walk-off by Bugatti. So what an epic sort of 5 minutes there, Thriller. It was ugly. Certainly nothing you're going to hang up in the Louvre. Certainly nothing from the Renaissance period. But the beauty of it was grinding through a culture-defining win when you don't have your fastball, you don't have your A game, your B game, that was probably your C-plus game, and you find a way to win a game in the conference.
Yeah, it was a really, really slog of a game in the early parts. But to kind of piggyback on your point, the defense deserves the most credit to kind of start this. And it's really interesting. The first 3 wins we've had this season, the first one, it felt like Jerry's coming out party, where Jerry got the bulk of the credit. The offense looked insane against a very talented Penn State defense. Week 2, it felt like Coach Skipper got the due, against Michigan State. Week 3, it's unequivocally Kevin Coyle and what the defense did. And you mentioned it, man. We weren't able to get the sack numbers we wanted, but this secondary is playing out of their mind. Man, we had 12 pass deflections yesterday, a season high for this football team. And you look at what Andre Jordan did on the 4th and goal.
Yes.
Roderick Pleasant led the team with 3 bataways in his own right. And then Scooter Jackson, 2 bataways in the first interception for UCLA this season. I mean, come on. This secondary has been the issue, the Achilles heel of UCLA football for like a decade now. Coach Meade and Kevin Coyle deserve so much credit for what happened out there. And, John Vaughn's leading the team in tackles, a tackle for a loss. Just big-time plays, man. Like, this looked like a complete defense. You're holding a guy who's arguably a freshman All-American in Malik Washington to his most anemic game against Power 5 competition all season long. So just really encouraging stuff there. And I'm actually going to push back a little bit on what you said on Nico. He had some very bad plays, but the toughness and resilience he showed, I'm going to give him a B- B grade for what he did out there because, we all have setbacks in life. We all have different situations where maybe I go into work feeling 50% because I'm a little sick or, maybe another guy, he's just not 100% out there. Nico was making these mental mistakes, and yes, there were some bad plays, but it wasn't a bad game. 4th and 10, you got all the chips on the table. You deliver it to Quasi over the middle. I mean, that's as pretty as a ball as you'll see. And then just the final drive, those 14 and 19-yard gains to Titus. I mean, come on. We need the ball game at this point. He's stepping up. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, they have bad plays, but they find a way to win. And if you win, you can overcome everything. Winning solves all problems. And to me, Nico did just that this weekend. What a phenomenal performance. And just the toughness, man. When he went down, thought he was going to be maybe done for maybe the season. It looked really rough there. The toughness to pick himself back up, put himself in the ball game, that's a true leader through and through for UCLA football. So I love what our guy Nico did out there. You mentioned it, man. Anthony Frias, that 55-yard touchdown run, green grass all in front of him, just put the pedal to the metal, got out there. And it was really cool. Ben Bolch tweeted a photo of Anthony Frias when he was a kid. He's holding up a sign saying it's my dream to score a touchdown here in the Rose Bowl. He was a Stanford fan as a kid at the time, but did he just achieve that? That's his first touchdown at the Rose Bowl he's had for UCLA. And then lo and behold, seals the game. And that was a crazy play call. If you look at it, we're down. I mean, it's 17-17. We're running out of timeouts. We're under a minute left. If that run play gets stuffed, that looks like a bad play call. Jerry gets ripped, everything. But Frias turns that into a 35-yard gain, gets us at the 5-yard line. It's a chip shot for Pagani at this point to win the game. I mean, just awesome, man. I mean, Titus was great. Quasi was great. Titus had 100-plus yards, which was great. I mean, dude, that's the gritty win that, the diehard football fans, the football lifers can look at it and be like, that team's mentally tough and this team's not done yet.
No question, Thriller. Absolutely. I want to double back on Nico because I completely agree with you. Statistically, it wasn't a great game.
No.
And he struggled in terms of, completion percentage most of the game. There were some high balls. He was struggling with accuracy. He, of course, had the throws that you love, but he was also missing guys. There were guys who were open. It was just a tough night for him. But I also think that the type of season that he's had and he's had to undergo both physically as well as mentally. I mean, has there been a more scrutinized player in college football this year than Nico Iamaleava? And has there been a quarterback, Thriller, that has been beaten up more than Nico? I mean, even yesterday, the hits that he was taking, the pounding, it takes its toll on you. And to your point, the fact that he was able to block all of that out. And when it's money time, right? The great saying, great players don't always have to be great. They're just great when they have to be. And that was exactly Nico Iamaleava. And when you looked at the team's reaction when he got hurt and the whole team basically coming out to the field to wait and see what was going to happen, and the look of relief and joy when he was able to sort of walk off on his own power, that's leadership. That's when you have that entire locker room. You are the unquestioned alpha, and everyone is following your lead. And so it was a very inspiring game, Thriller, to your point, because the stats, we're in such a stats crazy world today. Everything is about QBR and completion percentage and this guy's stats versus this guy's stats. This game was all about guts. It wasn't about stats, and it was the guts that brought this UCLA team over the finish line. And Thriller, the one thing that was very interesting is there were times in this game where it felt like the greatest opponent on the field for UCLA wasn't the Maryland Terrapins, it was the UCLA Bruins. Because there were 4 drives in this game, Thriller, where UCLA is in plus territory deep into Maryland territory, and they came away with 0 points off of those 4 drives. I mean, think about that opening drive where UCLA was setting up for a long field goal, and then they had to delay a game that knocked them out of field goal range. And then there were 2 other drives in the game where critical holding penalty, there was that beautiful ball to Titus that got to the Maryland 12-yard line, had to be called back. Then there was that phantom illegal block in the back. I mean, what was that? That essentially killed that drive. Then you obviously had the turnover in the red zone on the interception. I mean, those were 4 drives, Thriller, that either were UCLA mistakes that were sort of unforced or, very, very questionable officiating. So, it's so easy for a team, particularly one that has struggled to win over the last year and a half, to be able to say, you know what, it's just not our night. We got 2 straight. It could have been so easy for this team to say, we won 2 in a row. We're off the schneid. It's just not our night. But to power through all of that adversity, their own penalties, their own mistakes, the challenges of, just not having your fastball against the team that is in conference, to come out on top, that's what's got us so excited. Look, guys, the Bruins are 3-1 here. They're tied for 3rd in the Big Ten. Okay. And this idea of this train continuing, Thriller, this is very real. And when I look across the Big Ten in terms of what I saw over the course of the weekend, Nebraska got boat raced by Minnesota. Okay. Yeah. Washington, obviously, that was going to be a tough game in the big house. DeMond Williams came way back down to earth. That's going to be the ebbs and flows of a young quarterback. Bruins get both of those teams at home, Thriller. You can't tell me that they are not going to be in both of those games with an opportunity if they elevate their game. You got the 2 tough ones with Ohio State and Indiana. This thing could come down to the Victory Bell game. This could be a 5-6 team playing for Tim Skipper's job, playing for a bowl game in the Coliseum against the crosstown rival. I mean, is there a better way to cap off a regular season if you're the UCLA Bruins? So much to be excited about, Thriller. But your thoughts on just this game and what it means moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we have a shot, a tangible shot at reaching a bowl game after starting 0-4. And that's what made this so important. You're down, in the 4th quarter, 4th and 10, and you come up with a big conversion on that. That just shows the heart this team has. And, we went into depth about Nico and just the toughness he had. It was awesome to see. But the run offense has been special, man. And, We didn't necessarily reach 200 yards again this week, but we got 193. We were right there. Averaging 5.5 yards a carry as a team. We can do it in spades too. And the thing that I love is like Nico can pick and choose now, it feels like, when he scrambles, which kind of allows the rush offense to kind of do their thing because he doesn't have to force it like he did against a Penn State. We've kind of developed that ground now. You can just feed it to Berger, who should have had a lot more yards rushing if it wasn't that phantom call you mentioned on that 35-yard carry to the left-hand side. So, like, this rush offense has been special. Cortland Ford, the offensive line, they made some mistakes, man. 10 penalties, 85 yards, really set us back. But from a rush blocking standpoint, a pass blocking standpoint, it looks like a completely different unit from how we started the year. And that is one of the most encouraging things that I feel like is not being talked about enough is the job Andy Kwan has done with getting these guys, these bullies, these big, bad, uglies out there on the outside, pancaking these dudes in the open field, making plays. Eugene Brooks has been great. Sam Yoon has shown some moments. It's been really awesome to watch this unit kind of fortify, man. So it's just exciting all around. And, it's life at times, man. And I'm kind of harping on the first point I made. You're not always going to have a pretty perfect situation.
Exactly.
You can find a way to get a win out of that, keep momentum going, keeping us in the hunt for a bowl game, man. Like, that is what it's all about. Give me an ugly win every time over a loss. Ugly win.
No doubt about it, Thriller. And it just goes to show you that this team has sort of captured the imagination, not only of the Southern California fan base, but of the national fan base. And when you hear about this team talk, whether it's on outlets like ESPN or the Big Ten Network or CBS, they're really referred to right now as the belle of the ball, the Cinderella, the darling of college football in terms of where this thing started and where this thing is right now. Thriller, think about this. And we're going to preview next week a ton. But UCLA is going to play Indiana next week on big noon. Okay, that is the sort of central, that is the equivalent of game day for the Fox broadcast. And they want UCLA and Indiana because of the story of UCLA. I mean, so this is a team that has sort of captured the imagination of all around them. And Thriller, I think your point is so well taken about Andy Kwan and just this evolution of this offensive line. It reminds me a lot of the evolution of that 22 team, if you recall, from the offensive line. When you saw that opening game against Bowling Green, and you were like, man, DTR is going to be running for his life the whole season. And then you saw how that team progressed over the course of that season and the way Charbonnet and the way Keegan Jones were able to run the ball at the end of the season. That looked like a completely different unit. And I think that's where we're headed here. And the one thing, Thriller, that I'll also add is got to give Jerry a lot of credit for sticking with the run game, right? You mentioned it, 197 yards. But if we're being completely fair, 85 of those yards came on 2 plays, right? And so the rest of the night was 112 yards on, 25 plus carries. It was a slog to run the ball. But the fact of the matter is you stay with it. And it was this sort of Big Ten mentality of even if it's 2 and 3 yards in the first, second, and third quarters, by the fourth quarter, you're going to be able to gash them because they're going to run out. And it's sort of that heavyweight championship mindset. And I think Jerry's made it abundantly clear, I think, from the Noel Mazzoni philosophy, right? And even our fans have mentioned this, and we've seen it. The concepts schematically, the run selection, the play choices situationally, it does remind you a lot of Mazzoni in those Hundley days in terms of how they're sort of approaching it and being sort of run heavy and being predicated on that to preserve your quarterback as much as you possibly can as this offensive line evolves. So what I love is it's easy, Thriller, to have an identity, to your point, when things are going well, but it's something completely different and something so much more elevated when you stick to that identity in the moments of adversity. So in many ways, we should be even more proud of this victory than even the first two, because when you don't have your fastball, and now 3-4, Thriller, the show runs on. 3-1 in the conference. And here we go to Indiana. And Thriller, at this point, I have always said Indiana and Ohio State just seem completely out of reach. But you know what? It's college football. I mean, who the heck knows on any given Saturday? Louisville shocked Miami. Who saw that coming with Carson Beck with 4 interceptions? You got to lace them up and see where this thing goes. But Tim Skipper, Thriller, and this staff every week are making it harder and harder and harder on this committee. Thriller, just your thoughts before we close it out on Skipper, and now we sort of see the end here, right? We're 7 games in. There's 5 games left. In your mind, does there have to be a win-loss record these final 5 games where you say, you know what, he deserves a 2-year contract, a 3-year contract? He's sort of earned it on a short-term basis.
I think, and the trajectory has grown significantly each week. He's put together these just impressive wins and performances. I think it would be, you got to get to at least 5. Yeah. You got to make it close against a Jed Fish, who's the other top guy we're talking about right now. Maybe, if you go into Indiana next week and you don't have to win, but I'm going to paraphrase what Ari Wasserman is telling. He's the on-3 guy. UCLA controls its own destiny right now. They control their own destiny. Think about how crazy of a statement that is. If we win out, we could be playing.
We're going to the playoff.
Yeah.
If we win out, we're going to the playoff.
Yeah. Think about that. As a 4-loss team that lost to New Mexico, UNLV, just wild stuff to even think about. But that 5-6 win mark, and you don't necessarily have to beat Ohio State. You don't necessarily have to beat Indiana. But if you can look those opponents in the eyes and say, hey, we've got a shot in these ball games, and keep it close, that wins national respect. Even if you don't win the game, it's like, wow, you guys were in that ball game against Ohio State. They may have pulled away late, but I mean, it was like a 7-point game late in the third quarter. That's a conversation that diehard football fans have amongst each other when watching these ball games. So, yeah, 5 wins. Let me see some more, style points in the meantime. And, it's hard. It's really hard to have not 100% approval rating with Tim Skipper. I know you saw those practice clips. Come on, man. Who wouldn't want to play for that guy? That guy is positive, energetic, making the team, focus on the minor details. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch, man. And Bruin fans, like the magic is here, man. Let's just enjoy where we're at right now compared to where we were at 3 weeks ago. Are you kidding me, guys? Are you kidding me? The magic rolls on. God, man, it's like we got to get Chris Angel out here, one of these guys. It's like the magic is going off the rails right now. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch.
A beautiful thing, and another great life lesson from the Thriller. You sort of come through in moments of adversity, and let's just enjoy the ride while we're on it. And we're 3-4, and let's see where it all goes from here. And I agree with you, Thriller. I think if he gets to 6 and he beats SC and makes a bowl game and is competitive, just competitive in Ohio State and Indiana, very hard not to give him the job, which is incredible to say just 3 weeks ago.
And one thing I just got to add, remember how important the SC win is. Remember Chip Kelly was firmly on the hot seat a couple years back. He beats SC. They're kind of like, hey, man, you're here as long as you want it. He leaves ultimately in January, but I mean, if you beat SC, you know how much weight that holds with
in the Coliseum, no less, Thriller. How much weight that holds.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be fun, man. Buckle your seatbelts. I said last week, let's double buckle this time up. We're coming. The Bruins ain't done yet. Let's keep this magic ride rolling, baby.
Let's keep the magic ride rolling. Double buckle up, folks. And before we get out of here, we got to pay the bills. You see the Sleeper app down there. Sign up on the #1 sports app. Real-time chat, fan engagement, real-time stats, promo code UCLA LAFB, $100 off your match bonus. You pay $100, you get $100 for free, and you're playing with $200. #1 sports app in the world today. Download it and tell them the guys from the LAFB network sent you. Well, Thriller, another one bites the dust. The Bruins go to 3-1 in the Big Ten. The dreams of a bowl game, the dreams of a college football playoff are still alive. Be loud, be proud, be passionate, Bruins, everybody. And like we always say, 4's up forever.